Hi everyone, in this tutorial we are going to be making some Disney t-shirts with Printable HTV, and I have recently fallen in love with this Printable HTV. I did a video last week on how to make a garden flag with Printable HTV, and it was my first project with this material and I fell in love with it. So I'll link it up here if you guys want some inspiration on how to do that. But since then I actually went and placed an additional order for some more of it, and it just arrived in the mail with a couple other things, and I'm just in love with this. So I invested in a little bit more because I have a few more things in mind to use it with. So we are going to be using some plain white t-shirts, and we are going to be printing out pictures of Disney characters onto the Printable HTV through our printer. Then we're going to send it through our Cricut to have it cut out the design, and then we will use our EasyPress. We're going to use the 9x9 today. We're going to use the EasyPress to get it onto the t-shirt. So I'm really excited about that. So I just have these little white shirts from Target. They're Cat and Jack. I have two different sizes. My girls are obsessed with Frozen right now, Frozen 2. It is just a fun little movie. In fact, I have to be completely transparent and say I actually haven't seen the entire thing yet. I think I've seen the first half of it 672 times, but I always pull out a book halfway through just because the girls are all quiet. I can get a little reading done and stay on the couch with them. So about halfway through, I've seen the first half, and then I kind of, start doing a little something different for the second half. So my husband actually lovingly laughs at me that I have yet to finish the movie, and so it's really fun. I should probably do that. We're going to use the EasyPress mat. I'm using my polka dot one. I love this one. And then we're also going to use some parchment paper because that is what we're going to place on top of our design when we press it to the shirt. And if you do purchase the Printable HTV, it does come with step-by-step instructions on how to use it. It's recommended that you use a heat press with it, but it does also have information on how to apply it with the iron. So that can be helpful as well if you don't have a heat press yet. So I have the directions, and since this is my second time using it, I'll probably be referring to those quite a bit still. But let's get into Design Space and get started, and we will get everything all ready to go.
Okay, so now that we're in Cricut Design Space, these are the two files that I'm using. Now, I am a Cricut Access member. However, that does not cover Disney images, so I did have to purchase these even though I am an Access member. So what I did was, once you can actually pull Disney images into your canvas and play around with them, but once you go to make it, then you will have to purchase it. So it'll come up with a little purchase screen, and then you can purchase the files. So that's what I did, and I already went ahead and did that, so you didn't have to watch me purchase them. But I found these by just going into the images section, and then when you go search all images, you can just type in Disney, and a ton of options come up. So these are really, really awesome. The possibilities are really endless. So you can browse through here and find a favorite character of yours or a favorite character of someone that you're making this for, and it's really, really fun. So it'll also mention the little prices down here, and I believe the ones I purchased were $1.99 a piece as well. I think if you're an Access member, you do get a discount. I think my total was not quite $4. I think I got a little bit of a discount, but you'll have to look at your individual line item as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel, and I have both of these pulled into the canvas already. Now, if you see them right now, they are actually individually placed in layers. So you have her lips here, and you have her eyes and her skin. So we don't want it to print a million different things to layer. We want this to all be one image. So what we can do is we can click the name, or we can come over here and just highlight her, and then we can come over here and hit flatten. And you'll notice now that it has now made it one layer. So this will all print and cut in this one image. So we'll do the same with Anna, and again, watch right here. This goes from a multi-layer project to a single layer. So I have her selected, and I'm just going to go and click flatten, and now she is one. So in order for these to print on the same piece of Printable HTV. That way I can save material. I'm going to select both, and I'm going to come down here and click attach. And then I'm going to come up here and click my Maker, because that's what I'm going to be using. You can do this project on the Maker or the Explorer, but you cannot do this on the Joy. The Joy is not compatible with print and cut projects. So now I'm just going to click Make It, and then my images are placed onto my Printable HTV. It does say that it is print and cut. You do not need to mirror this product, so we're all good there. We don't need to turn that on, and we're going to click Continue. So it's going to locate my Maker, but first we're going to send this to the printer. So once we send it to the printer, it'll come up and say what printer you're using. I'm using my HP OfficeJet Pro 9010 series. I always add bleed. One thing about the printer is that it does need to be an inkjet printer. This cannot be a laser printer, and it does say that on the directions. So this is Printable HTV for inkjet. So then I will go ahead and click print when I'm ready, so that before hitting print, I'll make sure that my HTV is loaded properly into my printer. So you'll want to make sure that you know which direction to place your HTV into your printer so that it prints on the white side. So then once I have it printed, I will come in here and I will browse my materials. Okay, so I'm going to select Printable Iron-On Light for my cut setting, and then I will select Done. So once it is printed and I get ready to send it through the machine to cut, this is the cut setting that I'll use. All right, let's get it printed and started.
Okay, so it's off the printer. Look how pretty it turned out. It looks really good and it printed really quickly. So what it does say is before you press it, you want to wait 5 minutes, but I always wait 5 minutes before cutting. So I just use my little 5 minutes a little earlier. So I like to just let it sit for about 5 minutes before I place it through my machine. Another thing I wanted to mention about the printing is you want to make sure that you're printing on the white side and not the gridded side. So you need to determine how to feed your paper through your printer so that it prints on the right side, and that's not something I can do for you. You'll have to determine that on your own. And then also you're wanting to place your printer on the normal paper setting. That is helpful as well, and those are all in the directions too. So we're going to let this just sit for 5 minutes, and then we'll place it on our mat, and then we'll get to cutting it out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and place this on my mat. So I'm going to just place it just like this. Now it's important to know you're not going to do any cutting beforehand. This big registration box, this black box that surrounds it, you want to keep that on there because that's how your Cricut is going to read the design and know where to cut. So make sure you don't do any cutting. You're just going to take it off of your printer and then place it on your mat. And of course I waited a couple minutes between so that I could make sure that it was all dry before placing it on my mat. I'm going to use my brayer tool just to get it all placed on the mat. And then another thing you want to make sure you do is you want to make sure that your machine is calibrated. I'll go ahead and link a tutorial for you up in the corner. That way you know how to calibrate your machine if you haven't done that yet. So this is all down. It looks great. I love the brayer tool. It's so handy and helpful. So now I'm going to go ahead and just open up my machine and get it loaded. And now what it's going to do is I have the setting in Design Space set to Printable Iron-On Light, and I'm going to then just have the Cricut cut it out. So once you start the cutting, what it will do is, if you're new to print then cut, what it does is it goes ahead and it will scan that black rectangle, which is called the registration box. And what it does is it locates where that is by scanning it, because once it knows where that box is, it then knows in relation to the box where the image is inside, and then it can cut it. So now it is just getting everything scanned, and then it will start cutting everything out. Okay, in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and set up my EasyPress for the temperature. So we are actually going to press it at 370. I think the directions say 374, so we'll do 375. So we'll hit the temperature button and bump that up to 375. And I still have to use my little notes because this is the second time I've used this, but it's so easy to use. And then we're going to press it for 12 seconds, so I'll just keep it on the 15-second timer. So that's going to preheat, and it will turn green once it is ready, and it'll give a little chime. So we'll just set that to the side. And this is cutting out. It looks really, really great. And I'll go ahead and zoom you in so that once it's cut out, you can watch me weed it, because we are just going to peel it off of that mat like a sticker, and that's how we will apply it to our shirts. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and unload my machine, and I have the image here on my mat all cut out. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over, and I'm just going to bend the mat away from the material. Okay. Looks like it cut through in just one spot on there. That's okay. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am literally going to peel this up like a sticker, but I'm going to grab my weeding tool real quick. Okay, so I'm just going to remove the surrounding areas, just like that. Okay, so now I'll show you what that bleed feature did. So you would just start weeding like you would normal HTV or iron-on. That looks really good. So I'm a little worried about these tiny little snowflakes, but when I saw the file, I kind of could do with or without them. So as long as we get the big one, I am willing to part with the other two because it's on a white t-shirt anyway. Okay, so right here you will see left on the scraps, you'll see the black outline. So that's where it adds just a little bit more ink to the side so that when it cuts, and it doesn't add black, it adds whatever color is closest to the edge. So in this case, the files had a black outline, almost like a coloring page. And so it'll just add whatever color is behind there. Okay, and so then make sure you do weed out any areas that have little pieces in there that need to come out. So I did that. And then the cut setting actually worked really well. It only cut through in just a little corner here. So that was a perfect cut setting for it. I sent this through on the same cut setting on my Explore machine, and it worked flawlessly as well. So that's a great one. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to literally peel this up like I would a sticker. So I'm going to grab a more durable side. So this is showing you this is really helpful because then you can know that you really need to pick a file that's pretty much in one piece for this type of project, because it just makes it a lot easier because you don't use any type of transfer material. You literally just peel it up. So I'm going to turn it over and just kind of peel it away like this, just so I don't do any bending or curling of the piece. And it comes off just like that. So then we have our image right there. So let's set that to the side. That's so pretty. I love the colors in that. Okay, and then for Elsa, we will just start her down here. And she has a couple more smaller, areas, like her hand comes out. So we'll just be really gentle with her. Okay, and sometimes I find it's better just to make it go upside down because it allows the pieces just to kind of fall as they are being peeled away, and just kind of go with the motion of it. Okay, she looks great too. Woo! Okay, so there is Elsa. Perfect. Whoop, her little arm. Okay, and then I'm going to leave these are going to come off the same way, but I'm going to leave them on until I put them on the shirt just so I don't lose the little pieces because they're fairly small. So I'll just set those to the side, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my mat. That way I have just my table underneath. I don't like having my mat under my heat press, so I'm going to remove this mat, put my heat press mat down, and we will get to pressing. Okay, so I went ahead and cut 2 pieces of parchment paper, so I can use one for each, and I'll just set those aside here. And then what I'm going to do is I will grab, let's see, I'm going to grab the smaller shirt first. I'm going to do Anna first, and there has been special requests on who gets who. So I did pre-wash my shirts, so they are all set to go. And what I'm going to do is just lay my shirt as straight as I can, and then I'm going to run my heat press over it for 3 to 5 seconds, and that will just remove any extra moisture that may be in the shirt, as well as just straighten up the shirt and get it all ironed and flat. So it serves 2 purposes, and you don't want to skip this step. So I'm just running that over. So cute. I'm so excited. These are going to be really fun. Okay, so that's perfect. And now I'm going to grab my design, and I'll just lay it on my shirt. Okay, so I have it all placed on my shirt, and one thing that I did was I put it down when the shirt was too warm, and so the printable HTV started to kind of curl into itself. So I would recommend letting your shirt cool down quite a bit and then place your design on there. And I fixed it, but I had to kind of unroll it a little bit. So once it kind of came in contact with any heat, it started to want to curl up. So make sure that you just take that step and just let your shirt sit for a minute, but it's all good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my piece of parchment paper. I just have my weeding tools kind of holding it down because it was wanting to come just kind of curl into itself. So I'm going to go ahead and place my parchment paper right on top, and then I can remove my little weeding tools here. Those come in handy for all sorts of things. Okay, and just so you know the measurement, let's see, I think I'm at about 2 inches. I'm about 2 inches from the collar. So that looks really good to me. So I have it laid down just how I'd like. I think it looks really nice. So now you can see through that parchment paper too, so you can make sure that everything is laid down and it looks perfect. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my press and I'm going to press for 12 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to grab my press and place it over my design and press for 12 seconds with firm pressure. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of pressure into that. And then once we are done, you cannot remove that parchment paper right away. We actually have to be patient and wait for it to cool for about a minute, it says. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so as exciting as it is, we do need to wait and make sure that we let this cool. So we're going to wait about a minute and then we can peel up the parchment paper, but don't do anything yet. Okay, so it's been about a minute, so we can go ahead and just peel off that parchment paper, and we have our design on our shirt, and it's all laid down, and it looks really great. So just so you know about the flexibility of this as well, it is pretty flexible, so it's perfect for a shirt. I'm really happy with the flexibility of it. I mean, you can definitely feel that there's some kind of material on the shirt like you would a shirt that you would buy, but it's pretty flexible, so it looks really, really good, and I like it. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and press the second one. So what I'll do is set this little cutie to the side, and we're going to pull out this one here. And then we're going to preheat our material again for about 3 to 5 seconds. Okay, so removing any moisture or wrinkles, and now what I'm going to do is lesson learned from my first shirt. I'm just going to let this cool quite a bit before placing my printable HTV on top, because when I did, all the little pieces just kind of wanted to curl into one another. They were kind of being activated by that heat. So we're just going to let that cool. That way our transfer lays right down perfectly without any curling. Okay, so now that that's cooled quite a bit, I can go ahead and just grab my little design here and place it. And I have found it's really helpful to have a little weeding tool just to kind of get everything arranged. It kind of just helps grab and drop everything. Okay. Perfect. I think that placement looks pretty good. I might actually bring it up just a little bit. There we go. That looks nice. Okay, so now let's attempt the little snowflakes on the sides here. So let's start with the biggest one. And I'm just going to peel it like I did the others, or the other piece. Okay, so there it's coming right off. And then I'll just place it right here. Okay, and then let's see if we can get the other two. Okay, placing the last little snowflake right on the design. I'm not sure if those were the exact places that they go, but that's how I like them, so I'll go with that. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my parchment paper, make sure everything is laying down as it should. Looks great. I'll lay that on top, and then again with the somewhat transparent nature of that parchment paper, you can really check and make sure everything is where it needs to be. And then grabbing our press again, setting it over the design, make sure that. Okay, and then 12 seconds with firm pressure. I kind of went 15 on that last one, and that's just fine in my opinion. I'm going to put some firm pressure into it. These were super easy. Okay. And then picking that up, and then we're just going to wait a minute once more so that this can just cool, and then we'll peel off the parchment paper then. Okay, so it's been a minute, so we'll go ahead and just peel up that parchment paper, and it looks really good. I'm so happy with how these turned out. Okay, so these are the final shirts. I'm really happy with this. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. So as for washing, they do have some washing instructions that come with the Printable HTV. It does say to wait 24 hours before washing, wash in a washing machine using the full spin cycle, and hang dry. It also says it's not suitable for hand washing or the delicate cycle. So those were just the instructions that came with it, in case you're curious about what to do with them once they need to be washed. But I'm excited how they turned out. Let me know if you guys have worked with Printable HTV before, and if you haven't, what you would do first with it. So these are a wonderful way to get some really fun and complex images onto material. So I really enjoyed this, and if you guys have a favorite Disney character, be sure to let me know who that is. And hopefully someday I will end up finishing Frozen 2, so wish me luck on that. All right, everyone, I will see you all in the next tutorial, and if you're not subscribed, be sure you are, because there's some fun things coming up. Have a great day.